Hi, Wyclef.
What up?
Know why I'm day drinking rum?
You usually have a little jug of rum when you're about to talk politics.
Exactly. When I'm afraid.
No, you're never afraid.
I use a little liquid courage. This might be one of those times.
They call you silent killer. You never afraid. Work. Bars.
There's this clip that goes around the internet quite often of Denzel Washington taking the media to task. But just this one thing he says, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. I'm both.
Oh, that was Denzel's quote?
That's what Denzel said. And basically was trying to tell the media that, the onus really is on them to report what's real, not propaganda, not what's made up, not to try to run quickly with the headline and get the news out first without checking the facts. Because we've talked before about people having a platform needing to be educated, better educated, if they want to talk about things that are important to the people who follow them and believe in them and share their thought process. Today, I want to get into politics. Just to start, for me and maybe many people listening.
Well, I just think that, to your point, to what you're gonna say, so at the end of the day, like I said, one day I gotta just film the debates which happens here. So you probably be talking about my neighbor over here who's on Fox, you know what I mean? You'll be like, yo, he's far right. And you'll be like, yo, so-and-so on CNN. And be like, yo, he's far left, you know what I mean? The reason why in these conversations that I'm always careful about speaking and what I say is because the lens of how I look at the world is from an international scope.
Yes, that
And
makes
from
sense.
an international scope means if something is happening in the Middle East, for example, or something's happening in Africa, it does not appear on any of these channels.
Not on Fox, not on MSNBC.
I'm saying it
not
don't
on
appear in any of them
CNN,
channels.
not on
So,
C-SPAN.
for example, like, if 4 girls get killed in a bombing, I'll give you an example, which, or a kidnap in a certain village in Africa, or some form of ruler outside of the United States who's oppressing his people or doing crazy things, right? You watch the news here, you barely see that, right? So for me, being someone who traveled constantly, I had to not only know what was going on in America, if I was going into Africa, I better know what's going on in Africa, right? If I'm going into Russia to do a show in Moscow, I gotta know what's going on in Russia. If we're going to China, China's considered what?
Communist.
Okay, so then imagine me in the middle of Shanghai. And I'm doing a show and it's getting heated. Fans are going crazy and my shirt comes off. And y'all see me before, like, I'm a crazy performer. And my manager runs up to me and goes, put your shirt back on, we will be arrested. Immediately, right? Because those people have a certain ideology and how they move and a certain thinking, right? So if I understand that thinking, then I'm able to communicate. And not that I'm gonna press my views on the audience, but what I'm gonna do is press my opinions, right? Because at the end of the day, I press my opinions and you can press your opinions. I feel that the only way for us to understand the world is for us when we're reading, like we should not be just looking at you know, when the history book was saying, this is what it is, this is what it is, this is what it is, and that's all they teach us in school, the internet has allowed us to move our brain outside of that space and look as a whole. A long time ago, people in America, right? We in America, and I have friends that was like this, right? They'd be like, I'd be like, yo, man, yo, did you hear what happened in this area of the world? And it has nothing to do with America. And they go, that had nothing to do with us, man. We in America, man. And now we've noticed that everything that affects parts of the world affects America. So at the end of the day, in order for America to be better, Africa has to be better. We have to make sure that the Middle East is better. We got to make sure what's the deal going on with Europe? What's really going on with China? Because at the end of the day, we have to figure out a way to balance things, right? Because when you look at it geographically, you could call me John Lennon if you want, you know what I mean? Like, I do believe in the idea of how do we get to like one world and the idea of love for all, you know?
Yeah, so you reminded me one time that I get a different point of view because of having done certain things and like gotten myself to a certain place. So many of the people who are listening to this show, they haven't traveled the world. They don't have the worldview. So come like all the way back to just America, just the place where they live, just wanting people to understand the views of the right and the views of the left, and understanding that we're in what is called an election season. So, and to speak on something that you just said, what's happening in the world affects what's happening here. What's happening here affects what's happening in the world. I've never understood that so much, to be honest with you, as with Donald Trump's presidency. His presidency is the first time I have really understood about our relationship with Russia, our relationship with China, our relationship with, you know, on whomever he has declared war, not actual war, but you know what I mean. Whomever they've said has colluded with him to help him win the campaign. This is the first time I really understood our relationship to many countries. And so yes, we should be paying attention to all of those things, because here we are at election time, and I've said it before, having to choose between what I call the lesser of two evils. I know who I'm gonna vote for, but I don't know if I'm equipped to suggest to people who they should vote for, or even to suggest to them how they should get to the point of feeling secure in who they want to vote for. You know what I'm saying?
What I want to do is just stick to like facts, right? And the facts is, at the end of the day, every administration will do things that you're happy about, other things that you will not be happy about. It's so funny, I'm having a flashback. The flashback that I'm having at this time is, I just remember when the situation happened in Lebanon, and everybody was calling me.
Yeah, I know.
People in Israel was calling me, my friends in Lebanon was calling me.
Yeah.
I'm saying, yo, Clef, you know, can you come? You know, could you do a drop? Could you bring awareness to this? I think like when something happens in the world, everybody, at the end of the day, like we're moving towards a world where I think people are trying to look for more solutions than trying to fight. At the end of the day, and I'm speaking in behalf of the youth, the ones that are on social media, the ones that are like, yo, we trying to create a change, we need a change. So I do feel like we're in a climate with the internet where what used to be politics is the kids do not fall for the politics. And I'm saying the kids because the kids literally will stand down and be like, we have our own opinions, we'd rather be on TikTok dancing all day, ignoring all of this. But while this is going on, there's a climate, there's a whole wind that's happening. And I think that with this wind, you're right, like we can't ignore the US elections because that's always a domino effect on the rest of the world. So we definitely, once again, I would The only thing that I always say, and I'll continue to say it, I say a president term is 4 years or possibly 8 years, right?
Yeah.
The country's still gonna have to move. So at the end of the day, it's very important that, like I said, you focused on the energy, you learn the policies, and you look at, like you were saying, from your councilman, who your mayor is.
Yep.
Like, you ever sat back and asked yourself, okay, what are my problems in my community? What do I really want change? Like, I will never be able to get to the president to have a conversation with him, but maybe I could have a conversation with the councilman, you know what I'm saying? And the councilman could get the conversation to the next person, then to the next person. So I literally believe in that. So I believe in like community organization.
Yeah.
All of these things are very important. So we can't be like, oh, we don't want to be in politics because it's a pile of tricks, right? So if you feel the part that you feel that's the tricks, work on getting that part so that it's no longer tricks. Like, get the information, the factual, so we're not dealing with illusions. So I think as we move forward, to your point, you keep emphasizing this election and the idea of the vote. And I keep emphasizing that looking at it from a world lens, right? You talked about the left side and the right side. What I would like us to do as we move forward with this free world is, why don't we start to look at the world the way my daughter looks at music, or the way this generation looks at music. When they go on Spotify, like if something's coming out of Germany, Spotify don't put or iTunes, they don't put a barrier and says, okay, please enter your passport number here to hear this, right? So at the end of the day, as we move towards the future, we have to think of the idea of security is important. No one is saying no security, but the idea of how do we start to treat each other more kind? How do we work towards more policies that is more in favor of immigrants? I think there's a lot of things that we can improve within these United States of America.
Yeah, I agree. And it just brings me back to how important it is to be informed. So not uninformed and not misinformed. So this platform of yours and those who have the amount of people that you have who listen to them, who take heed to the things that they say, using those platforms, not to throw opinion upon, because that's what I love about you. You don't throw your opinion upon people, you should vote for this person. But to just implore people to get informed, to educate themselves, to figure out what side they're on, whether it's left, right, or in the middle, and act on that. Vote. Take a responsibility so that you're not, for the next 4 years, complaining and knowing deep inside yourself you have no right to complain because you did not act.
Yeah. Well, you have a right to either complain or not complain based on who you voting for.
Well, or based on whether you did something to make sure the person you want to be in office or the ideals you want to be in office.
But I want everybody to know, like, you as smart and smarter than most of the politicians. Like you very smart, meaning like the people who's watching, like, don't let somebody enforce anything on you. Right. So for example, if somebody says to me, Donald Trump says Haitians come from a right? Now, I'm gonna say allegedly if he said that, because I don't know the propaganda. Like when I'm on stage, I'm gonna be like, yo, we are not from if you said this, we ain't from no But once again, the reason why I use that word allegedly is because at the end of the day, there's so much rhetoric going on that I'm just like focused on the main issues. And the main issues is, remember this, the art of war. Smoke is on one side. That's all a distraction. Don't ignore the distraction. Focus on your community. Look at the policies that's going on. And be like, yo, Is
but
this
all the way from
fitting?
the school board, by the way. Like, don't even start at city council. You start even at the school board level. Like, this is how serious it is. This is what we've seen when we think about what our parents dealt with, went through, fought for in the 60s. We're right back in that place. And I believe in my soul we're in that place because we are not hunkered down in our community, making sure that we have a voice.
So you're speaking clearly from the point of view of the left right now.
I'm speaking clearly from the point of view.
I'm just asking you.
From the point of view.
Because it sounds like you speaking like a Democrat.
No, I'm not speaking like a Democrat or a Republican. What I'm saying is when I wasn't seeing my father for a month at a time because he was fighting for rights, and we just have to keep in mind, it wasn't that long ago, honest to God, not that long ago, that you or I wouldn't have the right to vote, okay? My dad fought in that war. He's still alive to talk about it.
Haiti got its independence in 1804. They were the first Black republic, and they actually had no problem. They actually terrified the Napoleon and came and helped America with the Louisiana Purchase. That wouldn't happen.
Yes,
Part of founding
yes.
Chicago. I only say this because at the end of the day, to your point, it was a dangerous time because if the Haitians was able to get to you, and we were able to get together. If the Jamaicans, the Maroons was able to get to you.
You are so right.
We was having this conversation.
Yes.
These United States of America that we see today would be a different.
Would be very, very
You see what I'm saying
different.
to you? Like we wouldn't be, where it'd be like equal rights for everybody, period already. You get what I'm
Exactly,
saying?
it would be very different.
Yeah.
And it's just wanting to bring the point home of starting first in your community, of really paying attention, really understanding that you absolutely can affect the politics in your community and therefore by default affect politics all the way to the White House.
Perfect.
That's all.
So I mean, you know how the voting is happening, right? By mail, right?
Several different ways. A friend of mine, Fadia,
I'm
who
asking
works
you that
at
because I wanted you
Instagram.
to get into it, yeah. Which is the most, because you keep talking voting. So
Yeah.
if you could tell us the different ways people could vote,
Yeah.
which is important.
So you can still vote at polls. And one of the things Fadia said that I loved on her Instagram, this is one person who uses her platform in the most beautiful and amazing way to inform people. But what she said was she was imploring people to vote early so that you could volunteer to help at the polls and to help get people to the polls who need help getting to the polls, whether that be by driving them or maybe walking with somebody that's elderly or whatever. But I love that she was letting people know, vote early. So when we get to this point, and the thing that happened recently in certain states, people with these really long lines, sometimes the polls not even opening, getting shut down at the last minute, things like that. So if we have people helping and volunteering, even if it's it's people passing out water while people are having to wait on long lines or whatever. Maybe artists who are gonna go perform. I saw that too while people were waiting on long lines. Other things we can do. So yes, voting by mail, which people are very nervous about right now. You still can go to the polls. So, there are many ways to vote. What's important is make sure that you do vote, make sure that your vote counts.
Okay, perfect. So I think a few things that have helped me, because we was talking about misinformed and where do we look at for information. So I'm definitely gonna get you. I know you got some spots. For me, I would say when you look at the internet, there's so much stuff, right? You're like, well, where do I go? Where do I look? Because views are coming, and that's okay to look at everything, but do not necessarily be You know, look at everything. Like, don't let somebody just tell you this is right, because you're not no dummy. Like, you can look at something and be like, yo, this is a scam or a sham. So search, like Google, like, look, at the end of the day, information's out there, good or bad, we're gonna find it.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, so me, I have two debaters in my family. I always talk about Samuel Jean and Pharrell Jean. They were debaters out of Newark. They debated with Harvard kids, and I got to do a movie on these two. They killed it. But one of the things that I learned from them was watching C-SPAN. Mm-hmm. Because C-SPAN is sort of like, you know, it might be boring to a lot of people, but literally it could at least show you how the bill moves through the floor. And how conversations are going. So I would say maybe that's a good lighthearted start that I could give y'all. What would you say?
So a couple of things I would say. So vote.org, that's, you know, a place where you can go online and you can learn about voter registration. You can learn about what's local to you, like where to vote and all of those things. So I think vote.org is a plethora of information about being able to vote. The other is there is an app, because everything's in an app now, and it's an app called Countable. And this Countable app reminds me of, oh, this is gonna tell how old I am, when I was learning things from Schoolhouse Rock, which a lot of the people listening won't have a clue.
So it's basically a bill, like a bill's version of
you can learn like what bills are up to be voted on and things like that, and that's a valuable education, because then, you know.
Wait, that one's called what? Countable?
Countable. Okay. Like holding you accountable, but just countable. So that's an app. That's an app. And you could go back, and if you really want to like learn at the very most basic level, go back and find the old Schoolhouse Rock videos. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. I'm just a bill. Yeah, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. And it literally takes you all the way through from being a bill. And he says, yeah, now I'm off to the Senate where I sit and wait. Yeah, and so even something as simple as that is how they used to inform young people back in the day about, you know, the process of something going from bill all the way to law.
So we're definitely gonna get into that. And I think that you've made a big splash this week. Not just in your talking, that was okay.
Thank you.
The thing that took it over the top, and everyone is saying this, you need to do a record now. Because once we heard the way you started singing about the bills, Capitol Hill, like it took the whole conversation became normal. It was all about the ability of your singing, you know what I mean?
Or the inability.
Maddi, you're incredible. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wyclef.